Hi everybody, and welcome to this video about display rules and gestures in terms of expressive behaviours in psychology. So let's get started. So expressive behaviours, as we know, are the many outward observable expressions of behaviour which communicate emotions. We've talked about this briefly already, but worth mentioning again that it's not always accurate to interpret solely from this because people can smile but feel a very different subjective feeling. So we can't just rely on expressive behaviours to accurately measure emotion. Some expressions are the same for two different emotions, so fear and surprise have very similar facial expressions. It could be that people are feeling a mixture of emotions, so they're feeling several at the same time, which is absolutely possible. And people can control some of their expressions. So someone may be feeling extremely sad, but be smiling and appear in their expressive behaviours to be happy. So that's why it's not always accurate to interpret solely from expressive behaviours. Okay, so the universality of expressive behaviours. It's thought that many may have a biological component. So, anger is very similar on faces of animals and humans, and blind children still smile. So if we look at the images over here, all of these animals, including us obviously humans, are feeling anger or feeling threatened in some way, and they all have the unique similar facial expression or expressive behaviour of baring the teeth with an open mouth. So it is suggested that there is a biological component to emotion that is innate in all creatures. But we also know that expressive behaviours must be learnt because blind children grow less expressive as they get older. So the conclusion is that we learn also by observation. So we observe other people's facial expressions and gestures, and we obviously express our emotions as a result of that as well. So, display rules in terms of expressive behaviours are patterns of emotional expression considered appropriate within a particular culture or subculture. So in other words, cultures that encourage individuality and freedom of expression, so for example the Western culture, often show intense and prolonged emotional displays because it's seen as culturally appropriate. So this also relates, just incidentally, to the social aspect of the biopsychosocial model of behaviour. So what's considered completely normal in terms of expressive behaviours in the Western world may be considered inappropriate or shameful in other cultures around the world. So it is culturally based as well. So an Eastern culture may be more reserved and displays are very brief, especially grief and anger, because it's culturally appropriate. So Eastern culture emphasises social connectedness and interdependence, therefore it's considered inappropriate to disrupt the community with very, very intense displays of emotion. Now, gestures are something that we also talked about quite extensively in class. So gestures can mean completely different things in different cultures, especially hand signals and how we greet people. Now, this is particularly important to know, especially if we're going to be working with people and coming from different cultures. So at the Olympics, for example, several cultures all together in the one place, it's important that we know what certain gestures mean depending on the culture that we are interacting with. And that's obviously part of the wonderful nature of multiculturalism, but not a lot of people know. So as we discussed in class, here are some examples. So a thumbs up in Australia often means okay or good, but means something completely different in other cultures. So in Germany, it's often the number 1, in Japan, it's the number 5, and in Ghana, it's actually an insult. So people need to be mindful of that, obviously, when interacting with people of different cultures, because, again, they may mean different things. So we went through this in class, so I'll let you read the rest of what they mean in different cultures here. If you want to pause the screen, you can. But the main thing to remember at this point is that expressive behaviours, while some are universal, gestures are often not, and it depends on the culture that someone is from as to what's appropriate and the meaning of them. Okay, everybody, I hope you found this video useful. As always, if you've got any questions, let me know. Otherwise, happy revising!